Former top Baltimore prosecutor Marilyn Mosby convicted of mortgage fraud. Former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby on Tuesday was convicted on one count of mortgage fraud, after a federal jury agreed she made a false statement on a mortgage application for a home in Longboat Key.
As you come on to the page, kindly hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so as yet. Thank you.
But jurors at the U.S. District Courthouse in Greenbelt also found the once high-profile prosecutor not guilty of a second case of mortgage fraud, the U.S. Attorney's Office for Maryland said in a news release. That charge was related to the purchase of another Florida property, a home in Kissimmee, near Orlando. Tuesday's split verdict came 3 months after another federal jury convicted the 44-year-old on 2 counts of perjury, relating to the withdrawal of city COVID funds from Baltimore's deferred compensation plan she allegedly needed after suffering adverse financial consequences during the pandemic. That money was instead used by Mosby to close on an 8-bedroom house near Disney World and a beachside condo on the Gulf Coast, worth nearly $1 million combined, according to the evidence presented at trial. In February 2021, Mosby made a false statement on an application for a $428,400 mortgage to purchase the Longboat Key home, prosecutors said. When applying for that loan, Mosby falsely stated that she had received a $5,000 gift from her husband to be applied to the purchase of the property, according to the evidence. However, prosecutors said she made that statement to secure a lower interest rate. Additionally, the evidence presented at trial shows Mosby did not receive a $5,000 gift from her husband but rather transferred $5,000 to him, and he then transferred the $5,000 back to her, the attorney's office said in a news release. Mosby has denied any wrongdoing. The Progressive Democrat first made national headlines following the 2015 killing of Freddie Gray and its subsequent investigation. Mosby, at the time the youngest top prosecutor of any major city in nation, led the investigation into the officers who arrested Gray. Sentencing dates for both the mortgage fraud and the perjury cases have not been announced. Mosby faces up to 30 years in federal prison for making a false mortgage application. In the perjury case, she faces a maximum sentence of 5 years imprisonment for each of the 2 federal counts. Taylor Swift allegedly got Kanye West kicked out of Super Bowl seats. Kanye West seemingly hoped to upstage Taylor Swift and reignite their age-old feud at last weekend's Super Bowl, but the anti-hero singer reportedly thwarted his alleged plans. The newly minted 14-time Grammy winner, 34, allegedly got the embattled heartless rapper, 46, booted from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas after learning he'd purchased seats in front of her suite for the showdown between Travis Kelce's Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Taylor Swift gets pissed off. She boom makes a call or two. Everybody's involved. He gets kicked out the stadium. Brandon Marshall, formerly of the Denver Broncos, Miami Dolphins, and New York Jets, said on his Paper Route podcast. Bill says Taylor Swift allegedly got Kanye West kicked out of the Super Bowl after learning he bought tickets in front of her suite. He was trying to leverage her celebrity. So now you gotta go back to the beef. You know, him cutting her off, said the 39-year-old athlete, referencing Swift accepting the award for Best Video by a Female Artist at the 2009 VMAs, during which West infamously interrupted her speech and told the world the award should have gone to pal Beyoncé. It's unclear how Marshall heard about West's alleged intentions or whether Swift was really responsible for booting him from the stadium before her boyfriend's team won the Super Bowl in overtime. West and his wife, Bianca Censori, were reportedly photographed at the game, with West wearing a face covering featuring a white crucifix. Speaking to TMZ on Monday, West spoke in a pretty lukewarm manner when mentioning Swift during a rant about musicians' relationships with streaming platforms, but did not say anything about being told to leave his Super Bowl seats or Allegiant Stadium entirely.
According to page 6, Kanye West denied a former NFL player's claims that Taylor Swift had him kicked out of the Super Bowl on Sunday for allegedly buying tickets in front of her. According to Hindustan Times, Kanye West has denied all claims about Taylor Swift booting him at the Super Bowl 2024. NFL star Brandon Marshall went up against the rapper, claiming that Ye had audacious plans to sabotage Swift at the big game. The war between them started when Kanye released a song titled Famous, in which there's a line, "Me and Taylor might have sex. I made that BTCH famous." There was huge outcry because of this, and then Kanye said that he had Taylor's permission to use the line, which Taylor denied. According to the griot, Lamar Whitehead, 47, a Rolls-Royce driving bishop, faces the start of jury selection 2 years after a grand jury lodged charges against him including wire fraud, attempted extortion and making false statements to federal law enforcement officials.
The suspect wanted in the caught-on-camera stick-up of bling Bishop Lamar Whitehead was reportedly shot and killed by police at a New Jersey hotel on Wednesday. U.S. Marshals were attempting to arrest Shamar Leggett, 41, at the MHO Inn and Suites on US 1 in Monmouth Junction on Wednesday afternoon, according to NBC New York. Leggett reportedly came out shooting at deputy marshals, and they fired back, hitting the man and killing him. The New Jersey Attorney General said it was investigating a deadly shooting at the location. The man was one of 3 who held up Whitehead, his wife and their child at gunpoint during a July 24, 2022, heist at his Canarsie church, according to police. Already arrested in the robbery were alleged accomplices Juwan Anderson and Saquon Pollock, who were nabbed a few weeks after the incident. Pollock, 25, pleaded guilty to a federal robbery charge in November. As news of Leggett's death made it to Whitehead, he told the Daily News it's unfortunate that another young man of color has been killed. "I forgive him, and I would love for me and his family to reconcile," Whitehead added before offering to eulogize Leggett at his funeral. "I would give my services for free, because I am a pastor, and the last church that he was in was my church, even though he was doing something improper." Whitehead's own trial, for fraud and extortion, is set to start. He landed in the city's spotlight thanks to his friendly ties with Mayor Adams. As Brooklyn Borough President, the poll had Whitehead appear with him at public events, and Whitehead has said he used to see the mayor as his mentor and good friend. Leggett did 2 stints in prison for robbery, attempted murder, and weapons possession, and was released from Fishkill Correctional Facility in Dutchess County in January 2022, just 6 months before the high-stakes robbery. He was on parole until February. Whitehead was preaching at Leaders of Tomorrow International Ministry on Remsen Avenue near Avenue D when 3 masked robbers barged into the church as parishioners worshipped, video shows. The men made off with $1 million in jewelry lifted from Whitehead and his spouse, who was holding the couple's daughter when robbed by one of the gun-toting men, officials said. After the incident, rumors swirled that it was an inside job, but police determined the flashy bishop played no part in the heist. "They destroyed my ministry," Whitehead said Wednesday of the robbers. "They had the world believe that I was the one that set up the robbery, and some still believe that. I was turned from a victim into a villain. It opened up all these other attacks on my life," he added. In December 2022, Whitehead was charged with fraud, extortion, and lying to the authorities. Federal prosecutors said he solicited money from victims, including a retired parishioner, through threats or false investment promises, then kept it. Last March, he was hit with a wire fraud charge after he falsely informed a bank that his business held $2 million when in reality, it had less than $10. A superseding indictment filed in Manhattan federal court details.
According to NBC New York, Shamar Leggett was one of 3 men accused robbing Bishop Lamar Whitehead and his congregation in the middle of a church service in 2022. One of those suspects was shot and killed by U.S. Marshals after a lengthy manhunt, and now Whitehead is sharing his thoughts on the suspect and his ongoing legal battles. According to NBC New York, Lamar Whitehead, 47, a Rolls-Royce driving bishop, faces the start of jury selection 2 years after a grand jury lodged charges against him including wire fraud, attempted extortion and making false statements to federal law enforcement officials. Monday's trial stems from charges alleging he bilked a parishioner out of $90,000 in retirement savings by falsely promising he would find her a home and invest the rest in his real estate business. Prosecutors say he instead spent the money on luxury goods and clothing. Whitehead has pleaded not guilty to all the charges. The trial is expected to last about a week and a half.
facing federal charges in response to allegations that include scamming a member of his own congregation. News 4's Chris Jose is in Lower Manhattan with more on the criminal claims that come with a possible 65-year sentence.
Tonight, the man known as the Bling Bishop for his flashy style left a federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan accused of fraud and extortion.
We are vigorously going to defend these accusations.
Lamar Whitehead's attorney doing all the talking after he faced a judge and released on a $500,000 bond. Police arresting him for allegedly defrauding a parishioner out of $90,000 in her retirement savings to buy himself luxury goods. Anything you want to say to your parishioners? Whitehead not answering questions as he walked away. 5 months ago, he gained international attention.
All right.
The men seen on video robbing the bishop and his wife during a live stream service. The stolen jewelry worth $1 million.
Why is Fendi, Louis, and Gucci, why can't we wear that in the church? I wear what I wear to encourage people, not to laugh at people. My community work speaks for itself.
In July, the Brooklyn bishop pushed back on questions about the robbery. Now, he's back in the spotlight.
Everyone was wrong about Bishop Lamar Whitehead setting up the robbery at the church. People were arrested. He had nothing to do with that.
Prosecutors say Whitehead not only ripped off a woman at his church and swindled her life savings, he also extorted $5,000 from a businessman and tried to get the same person to lend him $500,000 in exchange for favorable actions from the New York City government. Whitehead, known to have a close relationship with Mayor Eric Adams.
We feel that he is being targeted and he is being turned from a victim into a villain.
Prosecutors say Whitehead also lied about having multiple cell phones during a search by the FBI, adding his campaign of fraud and deceit stops now. Whitehead previously served 5 years in prison for identity theft. In this case, if he's found guilty, he could face up to 20 years in prison. In Lower Manhattan, Chris Jose, News 4 New York.
Federal prosecutors alleged Monday in opening statements to the city from his pal Mayor Adams to pad his wallet with stolen cash and his closet with Louis Vuitton. During this trial, you'll learn that the defendant was trusted by many in his community.
As you come on to the page, kindly hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so as yet. Thank you.
He was the bishop of a small church in Brooklyn and a self-described businessman. He was a friend to the mayor of New York City, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jessica Greenwood said in Manhattan federal court. The defendant abused that trust by lying again and again. He lied about how much money he had. He lied about his business plans. And he lied about having influence with powerful people. All with the goal of getting money and property to fund his extravagant lifestyle. Whitehead, 47, is accused of wire fraud, extortion, and related offenses in the December 2022 case, carrying a potential decades-long sentence. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. Greenwood told jurors they'd hear witness testimony, recordings of Whitehead, and see documents laying out 3 separate schemes targeting an elderly single mother of one of Whitehead's parishioners, a money-lending company, and a Bronx businessman. The defendant convinced this woman, who had spent her career working as a nurse, to give him $90,000 of her life savings, Greenwood said. He promised to use the money to buy a fixer-upper home that he would renovate for her to live in. And she believed the defendant, a man, who by that time, had become a mentor and spiritual advisor to her son. Greenwood alleged Whitehead instead spent the cash on himself, including splurging on designer clothing and a BMW payment. The victim never got her house, and she never got her money back. In the second scheme, Greenwood alleged Whitehead drew up fake bank statements to get a $250,000 loan, purporting to show he had millions in a company account that had less than $6. The third scheme, Greenwood alleged, saw the headline-grabbing pastor threaten the owner of an auto body shop in the Bronx, Brandon Belmonte, attempting to extort him for $5,000 after a repair job. The prosecutor said he further lied to Belmonte to attempt to get his name on a $500,000 real estate deal, promising favors from Mayor Adams in exchange that could make them millions. But it was all lies. Although the mayor was a friend and a mentor to the defendant had never gotten official favors from the mayor. The defendant made that other stuff up to try to get even more money he wasn't entitled to, Greenwood said. Whitehead's attorney, Dawn Florio, asked jurors to reserve judgment until they'd seen the evidence. She said the swindled parishioner had been screwed over by her son, not Whitehead. I do not expect there to be any credible evidence, Florio said. What would Lamar Whitehead get out of buying her a house? The trial continues Tuesday.
As you leave the page, kindly hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so as yet. Thank you.